get started. Well, let me give you your mic to do the giant Dvani for everyone to hear. This is the short mic. Let me switch the mics. Hare Krishna. Old Damodar is gone. He was the one that was doing all the setting up.
It's a nice devotee.
Yeah, very, very nice. There are so many nice devotees in this world.
Yeah, it's true.
Just like Gaur Premanandi. She's such a nice devotee.
Oh, she's so much service.
Yeah.
Jai Shishi Guru Ranga Kandalu Hari Shishi Vara Hari Juki Jai.
Jai.
Nichirila Prabhishtam Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Shira A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Nichirila Prabhishtam Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Prabhishtam Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Prabhishtam Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Bhakti Vedanta Vamana Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Bhakti Vedanta Chipaka Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Chira Gokuvinda Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Bhakti Vigyan Bhakti Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Bhakti Bhagavad Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Bhakti Dayata Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Bhakti Rakshak Srila Shira Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Prarasta Tadasatu Shishi Mad. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Paramahansa Srila Gaur Swamiji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Satchidananda Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. Nichirila Vishnu Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannatha Swamiji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Guru Vedanta Charya Srila Vallabhdev Vijayabhushan Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur Ki Jai. Srila Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Chaya Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Bhaktinathan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Diva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Sri Damodar Roy Ramananda Shri Gopal Shri Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Mexican Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radhikara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Ki Jai. Shri Antaji Mayapur Shri Mataji Kutamaji Mataji Kalaji Vajaji Dhanaji Mataji Maji Vajavapala Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gopa Vrndavan Sudhanama Krishna Vaja Madana Ki Jai. Shri Shamakun Rajakun Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Yogamaya Purnamasi Ki Jai. Shri Gopishwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudasan Shakriti Ki Jai. Shri Purushottam Chaitra Ki Jai. Shri Bhagavan Ki Jai. Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Vedanta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi
Hari Hari Bol. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Mukam karoti vachalam bhangam langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurun dinataranam. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Tishe Namaha Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalau Kalmashanashaya Janava Pataye Namaha Bande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Godo Daye Pushpavanto Chitro Shamdo Tamonudo Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Brindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshai Kshiptascha Kamadi Taranga Madhye Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Numaste Charanara Vindam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Ashtatarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Ashto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Ashto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga, and my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and to all the Vaishnavis. Secret Truths of the Bhagavatam. This is still chapter 3, the process of hearing, and we're just in the very last part of this chapter, And we'll be continuing with chapter 4, which is titled Krishna and the Gopis. Okay, so where did we leave off? Well, it's a few pages back. More childhood leelas. Yeah, okay, it's more childhood leelas, that section.
I think we read about Katha.
Because we read the story of the, the fruit seller leela we read yesterday. And the next section after the fruit seller leela is more childhood leelas. So we didn't start that yet. Oh wait, we did. Yes, we started Baladev and Dhenukasur, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, and then, okay. This is the essence of all instructions. I think we finished there, yes. Okay, Brahma Vimohan Leela is now coming. Do you know what that means? Brahma Vimohan Leela? It means when Lord Brahma was bewildered by Krishna. Do you know that what he did when he was bewildered by Krishna? By Krishna's Yoga Maya potency? He thought that he would test Krishna by stealing Krishna's cowherd boys and his calves. When Krishna was small. He wasn't herding the cows yet, just the calves. So, just to repeat a little bit from yesterday, this last paragraph is so important. I'm going to read it again. The last paragraph before this new section, before the Brahma Vimohan Leela. Gurudev is sitting here in Badger, California, and he's giving class in the evening time in 1999. This was his third visit here to Badger, 96, 97, 98. Actually, it was his fourth visit, 1999. And in that visit, Srila Gurudev was introducing the essential points of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And these are 7 lectures that he gave on 7 evenings. So, sometimes Gurudev is interjecting something that he has observed, because why did he come to the West? He didn't need to come. He was very happy doing bhajan in Vrndavan. He said this. But he is coming to help all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, which is the request that Srila Prabhupada made to him 20 years earlier, in 1977. 22 years to be exact. So, with this intention, with this desire in his heart, he came to the West and began to tour all around the world. And by 1999, 4 years of traveling and preaching, now he wanted to put forward some very important essential teachings from Srimad Bhagavatam. But he would also make comments in his lectures of how he had observed what happened after Prabhupada left this world, and what happened to many of his disciples, particularly sannyasis, brahmacharis, he mentions. And he's addressing that because he wants to help the devotees. The whole purpose of his coming is to help the devotees. So he's making a very salient point here now, and I'm going to repeat that from yesterday. He's saying many brahmacharis engaged by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, they had been performing devotional service for several years. And how many years? Prabhupada came in 1965. And he left this world in 1977, so that was 12 years. Most of the devotees, they joined in the period from 1970 to 1977, when Prabhupada departed. Most of the devotees joined then, and there was a few hundred, maybe 300 or so, that were in Prabhupada's society prior to 1970. But when Prabhupada went to the West, when Prabhupada went back to India for a whole year, that year, 1970, there was a great explosion of the Hare Krishna movement. Hayagriva's book is titled The Hare Krishna Explosion, isn't it? Yeah, very good, very well written, that book. So when Prabhupada says here, many brahmacharis engaged by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj had been performing devotional service for several years. So that ranged from persons who were brahmacharis for 7 years, in my case, 7 years, because from 1970 till 77 I was brahmachari, and then a few years after that as well, and before I entered Grihastha life. But Srila Gurudev has observed that there were hundreds of brahmacharis in those days. You know, some of them had been brahmacharis only 1 year, 2 years, 4 years. By the time Prabhupada passed away, someone who was in my category was somewhat there was not too many of them, but there was quite a few still, you know. But then within a very short period of time, they entered into Grihastha life, and there were so many problems in the society. So what Gurudev is saying is that when Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj departed from this world, most of these brahmacharis, they became lusty, and they again married. So here's a high bar. This is a high bar that Gurudev is setting. Not that it is wrong for them to marry. Gurudev's not saying that. But they became lusty. Why would they become infected by lust? Because lack of sadhusanga, lack of hearing, lack of proper engagement. But nevertheless, this was expected. Conditioned souls, not yet on a very high platform. So, they married. Now, Gurudev talks about this lust. He says that this lust, it even entered sannyasis who were serving and worshipping the deities. They were reading Bhagavatam. They were doing so much preaching. Gurudev knew them. He knew those sannyasis who had taken sannyas from Prabhupada during those years, in the 70s especially. He personally knew many of them. So it controlled them. This lust entered even the sannyasis, and it controlled them. And they were driven from this devotional line. So for Gurudev, this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy. And truly, some of them actually left the practice of bhakti, the practice of devotional service even in their lives. So then he says, you should try to be very careful. You should try to be very careful. This is not the first time that you have taken the shape of a human and married. Is it? Is it the first time? Seems like it to the conditioned soul, right? They put all their hopes and dreams, and their whole life becomes based upon this little temporary arrangement. But not being aware that we've already undergone this in many, many previous lives. That's the thing that the exalted pure devotee can see. They can see your past lives and so forth. They're trying to rescue us from lust and from becoming involved again under the illusory conceptions of I, me, mine, the whole thing, right? So, he says, I think that you have done this hundreds of thousands upon hundreds of thousands of times. When Gurudev says that, you know how he says it in Hindi? Lakhs and lakhs. Many times we've heard Gurudev say, lakhs and lakhs. So they've translated that into English here, right? I think that you have done this lakhs and lakhs of times, or more than that. We're talking about millions. So, we've come to the Krishna consciousness movement. We've come to the lotus feet of the pure devotee who is giving us the message of Krishna, who spoke the message of Bhagavad Gita for us, so that we can learn and we can know that we're not temporary, we're eternal. We're eternal souls. We're eternal jivas. And we've done this many times before. And now this life is not meant for repeating that same tragedy, you know. So, Gurudev is saying, when you realize this fact, what fact? What fact is he talking about?
That you've done this millions.
Yes, that you've done this millions of times before. When you realize this fact, you will at once become like Srila Shukadev Goswami. Shukadev Goswami never married from the womb. He came out and he was already beyond all of that. He didn't even identify with his body. Walking naked. And even the ladies who generally, they would cover themselves, they could see. He's so pure. They could recognize. But when Vyasadeva came following and trying to catch up with his son, then they covered themselves. And he asked them, why are you doing? Well, because you discriminate between male and female, but he does not. Gurudev said, the self-realized personality, he understands that this body is just a covering. That's what it is. It's a covering of ourself. So what is the necessity of putting another covering on top of the covering? Gurudev explained like that. This is how they see. So he said, when you realize this fact, you will at once become like Shukadev Goswami, Srimad Mahaprabhu also, or Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, and all others like them. When will you become like them? When you realize this fact. You will have to follow this process. You will have to follow this process if you want to go where they are. We know where they are. They're Nitya Lila Pravishta. They've entered into the eternal abode, the eternal pastimes of the Lord. If we want to go there, we'll have to follow this process. Today, or after some days, you will have to be like them. Now, how many persons are telling us that? Huh? Gurudev has come to tell us that. This is his message. Either today or after some days, you'll have to become like them. It is not that you can think, oh, I cannot be that, I cannot do that, I'm just going to live my life and just be attached and just indulge in sense gratification and just get weaker and weaker and weaker. This is what Gurudev encountered. Devotees kind of like just accepting a very low standard of engagement in the activities of pure bhakti. Very, very low standard. But Gurudev came to revive what he saw, the intensity of 24 hours a day engagement. When the devotees were younger and while Prabhupada was on the planet, we've been telling stories even this morning, how we were so fortunate to be in that atmosphere, surrounded by devotees who are, there's no question of not living this life completely absorbed, 24 hours a day and doing service, service, service. Is that your phone?
You want me to leave it in the other room?
You just turn off the notification sound, that's all.
I don't know how to do that.
Give me.
I'll put it in there.
Okay. Oh, but I'll show you how to do that later. Yes. So, he says, today or after some days, you will have to be like them. So this is Srila Gurudev. You can sit in front of him, his murti, in his room, and you can think how Gurudev is speaking these very words. Today you have to, or after some days. When Gurudev is saying after some days, that means maybe a few 100,000 days in the human body, in different bodies and different lifetimes. But after some days, he says, you'll have to be like them. You'll have to come to this. Now he says, even if you are in married life, which is the majority of the devotees, or they're in between, because so many persons' marriages are not any longer there. Actually, the majority of devotees, this has happened to, right? So we were not brought up in a Vedic society, and so it's a different situation. But that does not mean that we're not devotees and Vaishnavas. We have to be Vaishnavas. We have been brought to this path by Srila Gurudev or by Prabhupada. We have been brought to this path in this life, in this human birth. And we have to be Vaishnavas till our last breath. And we have to desire to meet Krishna, to be with Krishna forever and ever. We have to desire this in the core of our heart. So, and then it will happen. So he said, if you are in married life, you'll have to be like the Pandavas. I remember Gurudev told me this personally. The time when I went the first time to meet him personally in 1988, you remember, I was living up here in the trailer park. I was in household life. Pran Kishore called me up. We need someone to bring money that we've collected for Gurudev to to do the construction work in Vrndavan on the Rup Sanatan Gaudiya Math temple. So then that was my chance to meet Srila Gurudev. And I was with him for 3 days. I had seen him before, but not personally met him. And now I've already accepted him, actually, as my Siksha Guru by that time. But still, I needed more association with him to realize who he is. So, and it was only a matter of months later when Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj left this world in the same year, 1988. I went there in January, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj left in August. So I got to have my final darshan with him. He was not well, he barely spoke, but it was very powerful to be there. For more than a week I was there. So anyway, I had a darshan with Srila Gurudev, which I requested. It was on the 3rd day of my visit, the 3rd and final day. And I remember how Gurudev was telling me. He says, you are in household life, you are in grihastha life, but you should be like Arjuna. You should be like Srivas Thakur. He named a couple. He said like that. So he's saying the same thing here to all of us. He says, even if you are in married life, you will have to be like the Pandavas, like Srinivasacharya and others, and like the Gopas and the Gopis. All of them were attached to Krishna, not to anyone else. So this is the essence of all instructions. Now, after the pastime of killing Dhenukasura, which we heard yesterday, then Krishna performed the pastime of Brahma Vimohan Lila. Brahma saw that Krishna, that Aghasura had been liberated. You know the Aghasura demon? Which one is he?
One where all the coward boys are playing and going
into his mouth.
into his
Snake.
mouth.
Took the form of a snake.
Yes.
Python, actually.
Mm.
So Brahmaji was watching that pastime. As Krishna performed that pastime, he was watching. And he saw that Aghasura had been liberated and he had merged into the effulgence coming from the toes of Krishna. Brahma witnessed that. So he was actually liberated. Aghasura, he was liberated. And although it seemed that he had merged into Krishna, he could not actually merge. So Gurudev's explaining that although it appeared that he had merged into the toes of Krishna, that's effulgent, the spirit soul came out of the body of Aghasura and in the presence of everyone merged into the lotus feet of Krishna. But Gurudev says, actually, although it seemed that he had merged into Krishna, he could not actually merge. And he explains, Jai and Vijay, who are they? Who's Jai and Vijay? The gatekeepers in Vaikuntha. Do you remember? The gatekeepers in Vaikuntha who blocked the four Kumaras from entering. They were named Jai and Vijay. And the Bhagavatam is describing how they took birth in the material world because they were cursed by the four Kumaras, but actually it was Yogamaya, because Krishna wanted to perform certain pastimes and he had to have his own eternal associates take the form of demons. So he's explaining here that Jai and Vijay, in the shape of Shishupal and Dantavakra, they were also liberated. Now, who is Shishupal and Dantavakra? This is the third birth. Because Jai and Vijay had to stay in the material world for 3 lifetimes, right? So the first birth was Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, 2 brothers. The second birth was who? At the festival we saw Ravan and Kumbhakarna. And the third birth was Shishupal and Dantavakra in Dwarka. So he's saying that these 2 persons, Jai and Vijay, in the shape of Shishupal and Dantavakra, they were also liberated because Krishna cut off the head of Shishupal and Dantavakra later he killed. So, and they also seemed to merge into Krishna's body, but in reality, they became Jai and Vijay. They were re-established in their eternal position in Vaikuntha. So then, when Krishna's pastimes were completed, then they went to Vaikuntha along with Narayan, who along with all other incarnations, he was within Krishna's body and he had come with him to this world. So Lord Narayan, you know, Lord Narayan with 4 arms, he's an expansion of Krishna, isn't he? Did Krishna come from Lord Narayan or did Lord Narayan come from Krishna?
Lord Narayan came from Krishna.
Yes. This is the Gaudiya Vaishnava understanding. So Krishna is the source of every expansion. So when Krishna wound up his pastimes here at the end, then Jai and Vijay, they went to Vaikuntha, and also the form of Lord Narayan, who is within Krishna, he also went to Vaikuntha. So similarly, it only seemed that Aghasura merged in Krishna. And Brahma he somehow saw this, and he became very happy when he saw that this Aghasur, his Atma, had merged into Krishna. And Brahma thought, oh, Krishna is so merciful. He has appeared like a boy, and he is performing all these sweet pastimes. I want to see some more pastimes, so I should do something by which I can see them. So this was the bewilderment of Brahma by Yogamaya, that he got this desire to see more pastimes, and he thought that he could cause these pastimes to happen, right? So Gurudev is saying that if Brahma had prayed to Krishna, if he had done that, if he had prayed to Krishna, he would have engaged in the correct process, but he never prayed. He was thinking how by his own efforts he could induce Krishna to perform more pastimes. And then he thought, oh, I should do something so that Krishna will play. Oh, I should steal away all the cowherd boys and all the calves. From where did these thoughts come? Where did these thoughts come into Brahma's mind? They came by the influence of Yoga Maya, Yoga Maya Devi. It was Krishna's wish at that time that he should perform those pastimes. So that came into Brahma's mind through Yoga Maya. And Krishna had been thinking, hundreds and thousands of gopis, they want me to be their son, right? Because Krishna's living in the village, in Gokul, in Vrndavan. Krishna's living there. And all of the gopis, they love Krishna more than they love their own children. And they always desire that Krishna could become their son. Okay? So Krishna was thinking, hundreds and thousands of gopis, they want me to be their son. And they want to keep me in their lap and give me their breast milk. They all want this. I will have to fulfill their desire because I have made a promise to this effect. And what is that promise? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna promised, Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajami aham. What does that mean? That means that I promise that I will reciprocate with my devotee according to their loving mood. According to how much they are surrendering, I will reciprocate with that. So therefore, these eternal associates, they wanted to have Krishna as their son. So Krishna had to find a way that he could become their son. So he said, I must become their son. Then, Krishna also thought that hundreds and thousands of cows, how many cows does Nanda Maharaj have? 900,000 of Nanda Baba's cows. And the 1100,000 cows of Vrishabhanu Maharaj, and countless numbers of other cows, they wanted Krishna to become their calves. So Krishna is a desire tree. You know? Krishna is a desire tree. What is a desire tree? Can you tell me what is a desire tree?
Wish fulfilling.
Yes. Where do we find such desire trees?
The heavenly realms.
Yes, and in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual world, those trees are called Kalpa Vriksha. They can fulfill your desires. But Krishna himself is exactly like a desire tree. And Krishna, he also wanted to become the calves of all the cows. Krishna wanted to become their calves, and he wanted to become the sons of all the gopis. Now, in Vrndavan, in Gokul, in Nandagaon, and everywhere, all the young girls were thinking, Krishna should be our husband. He should be our beloved. They all wanted this. So he had to fulfill their desires also. And for these reasons, he decided it is a good time to descend. And at once he sent for his internal potency, Yogamaya, and actually there was no need to send for her because she is always inside of Krishna, yes? She's always inside of Krishna. She's always in him. So he doesn't have to send for her. So she knew his wish. Yogamaya knew the wish of Krishna. And at once she managed everything. And Brahma, he stole the cowherd boys and the calves, and he kept them in a cave. And Brahma then went to his abode for only a moment, because you know that Lord Brahma's time compared to earthly time is very, very long. So just a moment of his time is still a long time, like 1 year, you know, just a split moment. So Brahmaji, after he stole them, then he went to his abode, Brahmaloka. And he did this for just only a moment, and then he quickly returned. And in this world, though, that moment lasted for 1 year. That moment. Now, what happened before Brahma returned? What happened? Baladev Prabhu, he had been thinking, oh, I am seeing a very strange thing. All the gopis, they used to have so much more love and affection for Krishna than for their sons. But now, I am seeing that they have equal love for Krishna and for their sons. So this is a strange thing for Balaram to see. Because in Braj, everyone loves Krishna more than anything, right? But now he's noticing that these elderly gopas and gopis, they have more affection for Krishna than they have for their sons, generally. But now they have equal love for Krishna and their sons. So I see, Balaram was thinking, I see also that the cows have, now they have so much more affection for their elder sons than for their new calves. Why? What is the cause? Because, you know, these are cowherd people. They know cows and calves very well. And they know that when a cow has a calf that is already 1 year old and then they've already have their new calf, because it's like every year they're giving birth to a calf. That's how the cows expand. But Baladev saw that these cows, strangely, they were more affectionate and attached to their 1 year old calves than they were to the new calves. Yes. So, then he thought, why? Why? What is the cause? Then Baladev understood everything. He thought, oh, Krishna is very wonderful. He thought, and then he smiled and he said, oh, Krishna, what is this? I see that you have become all the boys. You have become all the boys, and you have also become all the elder calves. And your stomach was not filled up by taking the milk of only Srimati Yashoda, your mother. So you became hundreds of thousands of cowherd boys. And when your stomach was still not filled, you became all the elder calves. And all of these cowherd boys are you yourself. And they are not the original cowherd boys. So why have you done this? Baladev was asking Krishna. You have taken the forms of all these cowherd boys and calves. And what have you done in that form? Oh, you took these forms to marry all the gopis. And you have married them all. So how did that happen? Oh, Garga Acharya, who's like the guru of the Yadu dynasty, So Gargacharya had previously told all of the Brijvasis, this year is a very good year. It is a very auspicious year. So you should promise all of your daughters in marriage, even those who are still in the wombs of their mothers. And you should promise, vowing in a mood of friendship with other Brijavasis who would soon have a child. You should vow, the following vow, you should take this vow. If a son is born from your womb, and if my child is a daughter, they will marry. So you should make a promise like this. So this was the instruction of Gargacharya. So all the Brijvasis, they followed his instruction and they made this promise. So in this way, all the gopis were married. And by a trick, all the gopis who married that year were actually married to who? Who? Krishna. So only Radhika, she was not married. And this was also a trick of Yogamaya. Vrindavan Maharaj had been told during that year that it was a very bad year for marriage arrangements. So therefore, Radhika was later married to Abhimanyu. Because how can Radha and Krishna be married? And then if they're married, there cannot be Parakiya Ras. So actually, she was not married to him, to Abhimanyu, but rather her manifestations were married. Radhika, no, she was not married to Abhimanyu, but her manifestations were married. Who is Abhimanyu? Let's study this point. Who is this person named Abhimanyu, who is apparently the so-called husband of Srimati Radharani? And do you know who his mother and sister are? Abhimanyu's mother and sister? Jatila and Kutila. And they're always trying to show Radhika in a bad light. Well, this is Yogamaya. They're serving, because then it makes the pastimes of Radha and Krishna very exciting. So, here Gurudev is explaining that Abhimanyu, he is also a manifestation of Krishna. Manifestation of Krishna. So her shadow, not her, but her shadow was married to his shadow. So because Radha is none other than the power of Krishna, she cannot be separated from him. She is one with him. To enjoy pastimes, they become two, but otherwise, they are one. Both appear as one in the form of Srimad Mahaprabhu, and when they are two, they are Radha and Krishna. They are one soul in two bodies. By pure devotion, you can realize all these things. This is the essence of the Brahma Vimohan Leela. Krishna can accomplish many tasks by one activity. So, what are the many tasks?
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
Just that my mind is foggy.
Mm.
How were the cowherd boys?
Oh, use the microphone. Switch it on.
How were the cowherd boys who were actually Krishna? How were they? How did they marry gopis if it was actually Krishna? If they were actually Krishna. How did they marry?
No, the gopis were not Krishna, only the boys were Krishna.
Right.
Yes.
So they married gopis, but that was Krishna marrying the gopis.
Yes. Because they wanted Krishna as their husband. So that was a special pastime that Krishna only manifested for 1 year. So he actually fulfilled their desire at that time to become their husband. And then when the other boys were brought back again, then Krishna didn't manifest anymore.
I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can turn it off and put it there. Okay. So here Gurudev is making this point that Krishna performed many tasks by doing one thing, by expanding himself. So this is a very wonderful understanding of Krishna.
I'm so sorry.
I'm going to show him how to put his phone on airplane mode. Bring the phone here, Braj. You know how to do that?
I don't know airplane mode, but
Yeah, but you can also turn off the sound. But airplane mode turns, it no longer receives any signals.
yes.
So it cannot receive a phone call or anything like that.
I'm sorry.
And that's what people do when they go on the airplane.
Yes.
Everybody, they say, switch off your phones or put your phones onto airplane mode.
I'm sorry.
Huh?
I'm sorry.
For what?
For the disturbance.
Oh, why should you be sorry?
Well, I am.
You didn't create that.
Govinda is asking if he can say a word to you.
Sure. Haribol, Jaigo. Haribol. 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 Maybe they're driving and
Anyway, the main idea
there's
is
no signal
he
because
won't be
he's
back till
not.
8 or 8:30.
Right.
I took it off.
I see. He had planned to come back sooner. In other words, yeah. Because I was wondering, it's 7:45, and nobody had cooked anything. Nobody had made an arrangement. So yeah. So now he's calling for that, but there's no signal. They're driving,
Right.
and so they're out of the range right
Even when
now.
he was speaking, he sounded far away.
Yeah. So I'm just hanging it up.
When you put it in-
Anyway, what needs to be done is Hansagati should be told that he needs to come, needs to do that. Yeah. Is he there in his room?
No, he's not in his room.
Yeah, I saw him through the window, so
Want me to
he's...
go to his trailer?
No. Just, we'll finish the class, because it's already done like this, so I'll just finish the class. Yes, so here's the thing that Gurudev is saying. So this is the essence of the Brahma Vimohan Leela, this pastime. This is the essence. That Krishna can accomplish many tasks by one activity. So this is one of his 64 qualities that Krishna has, that by whenever he performs any activity, he accomplishes many things simultaneously. What's that called? Multitasking, right? In computer language. He's the supreme multitasker.
Ultimate.
The ultimate, yes. So, then, those who were in their previous lives, now Gurudev is moving on with the amazing activities of Krishna, that those who in their previous lives were the golden statues of Sita, and those who were previously the Vedic mantras, so those who were the Rishis of Dandakaranya, and all the girls of Ayodhya Puri and of Janakpuri, all of these different individuals, they became gopis. Either they became gopis who were part of a group. That group is called yotiki, when they're gopis in a group. Or they might become gopis alone. That's called ayotaki, without a group. So all of these different categories, I'm going to read those categories again. In Ram Leela, when Lord Ram had to perform yagyas and Sita was already banished and she had also left, then Lord Ram made a golden statue once every year of Sita. And by mantras, those golden statues of Sita, which resembled her completely, they were turned into deities who were fully conscious. So every year, the one deity would be added to the room where the previous year's deity of Sita was there. So there was a few thousand of them. And they were all fully conscious, right? So those deity forms, they took birth. They were conscious jivas. They took birth in Vrndavan when Krishna performed his pastimes as young gopis. So there's a few different categories of gopis who took birth from previous yugas. They had the desire to worship Krishna. In this case, these statues of Sita Devi, they wanted to be united with Ram, and now in this incarnation, Ram has become Krishna, right? So that's one category. Second category is, they're called the Shruti Chari Gopis. Shruti means the Vedic Literatures. So in the spiritual realm, there's no such thing as impersonal. Everything there is personal. So even the Vedic mantras are persons. And these Vedic mantras wanted to worship Krishna in the most intimate way. So they also became gopis, Shruti Chari Gopis. Haribal, who came in? Hansagati, please come here for a second. A situation has arisen. Jai Govinda just called, and his signal, it faded, and so he can't call again because they're on their way back. And guess what?
Arti time.
I guess he was planning to be back here, but he hasn't.
It's about Sandhya time, the real Sandhya of the earth and the moon and the sun.
Anyway, it's 10 minutes before 8, and he handed me the phone, and as he handed me the phone, Braj answered the call, and it had already faded. So I'm assuming that he wanted me to inform you that...
No, I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
I was chanting, but it's okay.
Did Vedavyas, he went with them up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you do the arctic, he'll come and do dinner.
What?
If you could do the arctic, he'll come and do dinner.
Dinner?
Cook a little offering for the deities.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be good if you just, perform the artik.
I can perform the arti. What time shall we do it?
No, just as soon as you're showered. And then the offering can be done after.
Yeah. I
Because it's too late now.
Before the last one, and I just put these clothes on.
Well, then that's okay.
Yeah, I can change.
Then just do Achman, change into your devotional clothes. Okay? Taken care of.
It'll be at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, 10 minutes from now.
Yeah, good time.
Yeah. See, that's why Krishna made us start late today. Now, who are the second category that I just mentioned?
The Shruti.
Yes, the Shruti, the Vedic Literatures. So they became Shruti Chari Gopis, they're called. Okay, then the next category is, there was great sages, Rishis, who were living in the forest of Dandakaranya during the Ram Leela. Did you know that? Thousands. Thousands of sages were living there in the Dandakaranya forest. And those sages were actually chanting the Gopal mantra, even though it was Treta Yuga, and Ramchandra Bhagavan was on the planet, but they were worshipping Gopal Krishna. So when Ram came and saw all those rishis, he understood their heart, because in their heart the desire to have a conjugal relationship with Lord Ram had risen up in their heart. And therefore, Lord Ram told to all the Rishis, he said, your desire will be fulfilled, but not in this incarnation, not in my form as Ram. But in the future, I will take birth, I will appear in my form of Krishna, and then you will take birth as gopis. So that's the next category, yeah?
So he was still faithful to Sita.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but he was making this arrangement?
Yes, he was making the arrangement because actually he's Krishna.
Right.
See, Krishna and his expansions are one,
Right.
but still, only Krishna, no other form, no other expansion can have that interaction in that rasa of Madhurya rasa. Those jivas who want to have that with him, they have to take birth in Goloka Vrndavan. They have to take birth from the womb of a gopi in their eternal form, and then they'll have this eternal form of a gopi. So this is the next category. They're called Rishi-chari gopis.
So there was no conflict whatsoever within the Ram-lila, Sita Ram?
No conflict at all. But they continued, and Ram inspired them to continue chanting the Gopal mantra because Gurudev explains that they were somewhat weak in their chanting of the Gopal mantra. So then Ramchandra infused them with great hope. And then by chanting the Gopal mantra, then later they took birth in Krishna Lila. So then there were also another category of the young girls of Ayodhya. The young girls of Ayodhya were in love with Lord Ram, and they wanted to have that relationship, but how they can have, because only he has one wife, right? He has taken that vow. Ekapatni Vrat. Ekapatni Vrat means the vow of one wife. So those girls, and not only those girls of Ayodhya, but also the girls of Janakpuri. What's Janakpuri? That's the place where Sita Devi took birth. And when Lord Ram came there to win her hand in marriage, you've probably seen that video many times, right? Lord Sita Devi's wedding, and Lord Ram comes. And but all the girls of Ayodhya, of Janakpuri, they also became so attracted to Lord Ram. So now, all of these, they became gopis. Now, some of them were gopis in groups. That means yotiki. Yotiki means group. So the sages of the forest of Danda, they were in groups. But some of them were not in any group. Now, they all came to Vrndavan, and they observed the Katyayani Vrat for 1 month. And what did they pray to Goddess Katyayani? Now, upon the completion of this Vrat, then who came before all of these young gopis? There were thousands and thousands of these young gopis. And at the completion of their Vrat, who came? Radharani, the Ashtasakis, and the Nityasiddha gopis. They had invited them because at the completion of their Vrat, you know, they were bathing every day in the Yamuna in cold water. It was winter time, right? And they were eating very strictly during that month. So now they invited, and because of inviting Radharani, then Krishna came on that day, at the very end. So, why could Katyayani not come? The goddess Katyayani, why could she not come? If they were worshipping Katyayani, then Katyayani should have come. But she never came. Krishna himself came. And he gave his benediction to them. Krishna desires that those who want to be like the gopis, Krishna desires they should give up all worldly considerations. If someone wants to become like the gopis, how will that be possible? If they're attached to material relationships, this is impossible. for them to become gopis. So Krishna desires that those who want to be like the gopis, they should give up all worldly considerations. And for the happiness of Krishna, we can give them up. This body is like a garment. As you may know, Devahuti and others like Shukadev Goswami, they had no need to cover themselves with another garment. We are ignorant. We will have to transcend bodily considerations. We should keep nothing for ourselves. We should give everything to Krishna. Then we can come to that realm. Now, quickly, Gurudev is ending this chapter now in this last paragraph, and he's saying, now, quickly we will come to the topic of Ras Leela. And after that, I will come to the objective of my Harikatha here. Why did Krishna leave Vrndavan? Everyone wants to be in a place where there is much love and affection. We know that in Vrndavan, the love and affection for Krishna, it is superior to anywhere else, right? No other place is equivalent. Only in Vrndavan, the love and affection is so far beyond any other place. And then Gurudev says, there is also love in Mathura, but not like in Vrndavan. Then, why did Krishna leave Vrndavan? And after leaving, he should have returned from time to time to meet with the Brajvasis, but he never came back. Gurudev is posing this question. Why? He wanted to console the gopis. Krishna did. He wanted to console the gopis. So why could he not personally come to console them? Oh, instead, he sent his messenger, Uddhava. Why did he send him? Krishna has so much opulence, and he is so powerful. So why did he not invite all the gopis along with Nanda Baba and Yashoda to Mathura? Why did he not invite them? Or to Dwarka? If he could take all the Yadavas from Mathura to Dwarka in one night, why could he not bring all the gopis? Nanda Baba, Yashoda, the cows, and everyone and everything else in Braj. Why could he not take all of them? Why could Krishna, if he could take the Yadavas to Dwarka in the nighttime, he created Dwarka, and then he transferred all the Mathuravasis, the Yadavas, to Dwarka. So Gurudev is asking the question, then why could he not take the gopis, and Nanda Baba, Yashoda, the cows, and everyone, and everything else in Braj, and then live with them in Mathura or Dwarka? Why didn't Krishna do that? Was there a scarcity of space in Dwarka because it is surrounded by an ocean? Is this why he did not take them there? In fact, there was so much room in Dwarka. So why could the gopis and Nanda Baba not reside there? These questions we will try to solve in tomorrow's class. Gaur Premanande. Gurudev leaves everyone hanging with suspense. So, Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shishi Radha Govinda Jiv Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiv Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai. Shringa Bhagavan Ki Jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhye